What's up, everybody? Sorry, I can't do that with a straight face. I'm not really a YouTuber, I'm just a moderator on r/Polandball who goes by the username ChickenScuttleMonkey. Most people online just call me CSM. I've been in or around Polandball stuff for almost a decade now, and when Dick Rhino approached me about joining the Polandball YouTube project, I was like, absolutely, yes, whatever you need. Since then, I've mostly just helped out with animation stuff for Alpaca Studios and providing some of the music on this channel, but I had the idea to make this video after it came up in a conversation recently. Based on the title alone, some of you are already invested in what I'm about to say about the Polandball map of the world, but some of you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Most of you watching this probably have no idea where this yearly project came from or how it got started. You've just seen it circulating the internet year after year and think it's really quite cool. So let's get into it. The Polandball map of the world is an annual collaborative Polandball project that features every single country in the world arranged in a Mercator-like pattern and also serves as a way to reflect back on everything that's happened throughout the year. It's very likely you've seen an installation at some point in the past 9 years, but you might be wondering how something like this even gets made. With this video, I really want to highlight some of the people who have made the World Map project what it is today, so of course I'm going to begin with the legendary and dearly departed Brain for Breakfast. For those of you who don't know, Brain for Breakfast was an artist, moderator, community member, and all-around wonderful human being in the Reddit Polandball community, and he was also one of the first YouTube Countryballs pioneers. He was way ahead of the curve when it comes to mixed media Polandball-based content, and I would argue that the entire Countryballs Polandball YouTube community owes its existence to the work Brain for Breakfast did back in the day. What you might not know about Brain for Breakfast is that he was also responsible for the first map in a series of quote-unquote official world maps on the Polandball subreddit. It all started with a map he found randomly on the internet. I'll let Brain for Breakfast's own words on the subject do the explaining. I found this image on the internet and posted it to r/mapporn, and that is where I was first shown r/Polandball by 767 himself. Reddit metrics doesn't go back that far, so I can't tell you how many subscribers we had at that point. It is at least older than April 2012. The world map that Brain for Breakfast posted to Mapporn ended up being his very first post to r/Polandball. Some people might say, and the rest is history. He became a moderator in March 2014 and immediately set about making the subreddit a better place for everyone. If you're not familiar with what we do over on r/Polandball, we have a yearly tradition of featuring some of the less popular countries every September. We call it Lesser Known September, and that was Brain for Breakfast's brainchild. By the time he got around to drawing his 2014 world map, Brain for Breakfast was an important member of the community. Here's Brain for Breakfast again explaining some of the context behind the 2014 map. Story: I edited the first map because I received so many messages about selling it online. After consulting with mods, I decided not to sell to make a profit, so I made a Kickstarter with a high target that failed and PM'd all the people who wanted the print and told them to print their own. That way I would not be involved. At this point, Norway Burned left the main sub because he disagreed with monetizing Polandball. I'll be putting the original links in the description below so you can go check this map out for yourself and take your time digging through it because good lord, there's a lot of fun little details he added. If you scroll down through the comments of that post, you'll find a lot of really amazing legacy comics that provided the inspiration for some of the characterization Brain for Breakfast gave to the Countryballs he drew for this map. It could go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. Brain for Breakfast was an amazing guy, and the time, care, detail, and attention he gave to his comics and his comments is something that every community member should aspire to. The 2014 world map is just one example of that. Now, you might be wondering why there isn't a 2015 world map, and if you scroll back through Reddit or scour the internet, you really won't find anything for the year 2015 that looks half as cool as even Brain for Breakfast's solo effort in 2014. That's because in 2016, Brain for Breakfast decided that in order to produce another world map, he wanted to involve collaborators so he wouldn't have to do all the work himself. Thus, the annual official world map series was born. What made the 2016 map so special, and what makes this project special to this day, is the collaborative effort required to execute a project at this scale. You get to see a range of different art styles in a single massive art piece, and you also see the product of people working together asynchronously all across the world to create something together. Even with people who draw their art pieces independently without a lot of input from the other team members, you get to see how their vision coexists with another person's, and how those two visions elevate each other and the whole project along with them. The real trick is organizing the whole thing, and let me tell you, I do not have the administrative mind necessary to corral a bunch of internet folk all over the world and guide them into assembling a coherent, finished project. It is a Herculean effort, but without Brain for Breakfast getting that first ball rolling, we wouldn't be here talking about it today. It's worth mentioning that in 2016, Brain for Breakfast approached users individually to gauge their interest in participating in such a project, and the selection process for involvement in the World Map project from 2017 until about the early 2020s was by mod invite only. The idea behind an exclusive selection process was to ensure that the quality of the drawings remained high, and to keep the total number of participants down to a manageable number for the sake of the organizer. 2017 was an interesting year for the world map, since it was almost simply an afterthought. After managing the production of the 2016 map, Brain for Breakfast had declined to manage another gargantuan effort, but was completely open to the idea of another moderator taking the lead, so the organization of that year's map was eventually taken on by Jesus Stalin. The 2017 world map marks the first time the world map was used intentionally as a way to recap many of the noteworthy headlines throughout the year, possibly to avoid the burnout and possible boredom that might occur if the world map was just a rehashing of the same old stereotypes year after year. From that point forward, as r/Polandball's subscriber count grew and grew, more and more people would get excited about the project every year and wonder how to get involved, and more people would be brought to the subreddit as the map was published and proliferated across the internet. 2017 was the first year it was called the official Polandball map of the world. The word official meant something totally different to us back in 2017. Back then, the mods of r/Polandball were the difference between really good Polandball comics being posted to the subreddit and, let's face it, the shitty comics posted to the other places on the internet. So attaching the word official to the world map meant that the moderators had personally approved of each of the art submissions and decided they were worthy of representing what the subreddit had to offer the wider internet. It's a decision we've stuck by for a really long time now, and it's part of why we've been calling this the official r/Polandball YouTube channel. We've got a lot of the same people from back in those days running things behind the scenes here, and as we grow, we really want to continue featuring great original comics made by viewers like you. So please keep liking and subscribing, and please keep watching because we've got a lot more fun stuff coming in the future. Now, back to the video. For the 2018 world map, management and organization was taken on by Blackfire. If you're not familiar with Blackfire, you should be. He is the autocrat of the Polandball Discord, and you'll see him around here and there. He's been a moderator in r/Polandball for a little over 7 years, and due to happenstance, timing, interest, obsession, what have you, ever since 2018, he has been the guiding force behind the inception and completion of most of the official world map projects. I reached out to Blackfire for some commentary on his involvement in the world map over the years, and he kindly indulged me. So here's Blackfire on the early days of the official map. It's funny in hindsight, but I suppose we have to place the world map in context as never really an institutional project of the subreddit. Despite appearances as such, it was always quite hodgepodge on getting started. It was B4B's passion, and then in 2017 we realized we'd forgotten to continue it, and some other users were trying to branch off, so Jesus Stalin took the lead. Then in 2018 there was kinda an ebb in enthusiasm in a lot of aspects of the community, just one of those things, and I'd made this big post that I cannot find in internal discussions listing lots of community projects we'd ought to do to kick things back into gear. World Map was one of them, and really nobody else offered it. It's something I wanted completed, so it fell to me. I'd had a lot more time then when I was in college. I'm pretty sure I was overseeing the World Map and Advent calendar and contributing to the 365-day calendar all at once. I wasn't even entirely sure if we were continuing the modern theme or maybe trying something else. I brainstormed the idea of, instead of 2018, do 1618. This was before historical world maps as a genre became more popular, but I think things crystallized well into the structure of what a world map is. The map, the elaborate frame, the late empires and nations looking up in some capacity. I ended up relatively conservative in building on what had been done before. 2018 ended up being a really big year for the official world map for two specific reasons. First, 2018 was the year that the Polandball community Discord server was launched. Shameless plug for that, by the way. Go check it out and get involved. And so, in 2018, the production of the world map was no longer entirely asynchronous. Artists could collaborate on ideas in real time, which allowed for a much greater synchronicity in ideas, country placement, and all sorts of fun details that have been in world maps ever since. Which leads me to the second big thing from 2018, the banner. Ever since 2018, the official world map has had elaborate banners framing the map as a way to make it more visually appealing and add an element of high art and cohesiveness to what is otherwise a chaotic mishmash of dozens of individual artists throwing their artwork together. I'm not sure if the banner is what made it happen or if Reddit's algorithm at the time gave us a boost, but the 2018 world map quickly shot to the top of r/Polandball's top comics of all time, and to this day, it remains at the number 2 position on that page. The inclusion of the mods in the 2018 world map banner is something worth noting, as that decision was not without controversy. Among the team working on the 2018 map, there was some disagreement about the optics of what could look like mod worship by including them in the map, but the map was largely a project happening outside of the jurisdiction of the mod team, so the banner was ultimately left as is. In a sadly ironic way, the disputed meta reference to r/Polandball in the 2018 map what paved the way for the meta references included in the 2019 and the 2020 world maps. Brain for Breakfast passing in early 2019 was a loss to the entire community, and a tribute to him is very prominently displayed in the bottom center of the official map for 2019. Similarly, in late 2019, after the passing of Java Code, another important figure in the r/Polandball community, a tribute to him can be seen in the top center of the official map for 2020. This is somewhat outside of the scope of this video, but I want to talk a little bit about Java Code and how r/Polandball, really this entire YouTube channel, wouldn't be here without the work he did behind the scenes for so many years. I also wanted to take the opportunity to feature another world map organizer and community member who is responsible for a crapload of behind the scenes work in both the subreddit and its related Discord community, Andy Redditor. I reached out to Andy for some comments related to the world map and his involvement with the community, and he had this to say. I've been interested in coding for as long as I can remember, but the first time I really took on such a role as a coder with PB was for the first PB calendar back in 2018. Work on the calendar under Easty was going very well, so I decided as a bit of a side project to try and make a calendar widget to put on one's computer desktop using Rainmeter. Even though I hadn't really messed around with making Rainmeter widgets until that point, I was able to cobble together a calendar widget over the course of a couple of weeks to be released with the rest of the calendar. It wasn't the prettiest thing, nor did it have the cleanest code, but it worked, and it would be refined over the next few iterations. After this point, I started to really become this sort of tireless event worker to many on the team, which was only compounded after I was given leadership on making the r/Polandball 8th anniversary event. It's at this point, however, that things take a turn. You see, I did not work alone on this event, far from it, and my biggest partner on it by far was Java Code. For those of you who don't know who Java was, he was an absolute pillar of the community who was the person behind the community's tech for the better part of a decade. He was there from the near start of the subreddit, and he was still there all those years later, working with me on that event in 2019. Tragically, he passed away later that year, and there was suddenly a void where there was once a beating heart of the community. I don't wish to paint myself as being some sort of replacement or successor to Java. To me, there is no equal to what Java was. I feel the void in the community was never fully filled by anyone, and in fact, the community itself has changed so much over the past few years with a more mobile-centric audience that someone like Java could never exist in the community in the same way again. However, the show still needed to go on, and while people like Barsky and Portugal Stronk could fix it to a certain extent, to reactivate those machines and bring about renewed life, new blood was needed. While Barsky and I were still working on new events without Java's aid, the moderator sought out new coders, sending out applications to preeminent members of the community to get a picture of who would fill the enormous shoes left behind. In the end, the mod selected myself and Temple Maste to act as the new code monkeys, as it were. From there, it's pretty much history. The thing about r/Polandball is that it's been designed to be a pretty solid rock, and despite the changing seas of the internet, the subreddit holds, which makes the amount of work that someone in my position actually needs to do less than one might expect. The number of subreddit events has significantly decreased since Java's day, though I believe the lack of user interest in making such events can be largely attributed to the changing user base of the subreddit, growing younger and being on mobile, where such events are not visible. However, we have still done lots of work on other events which requires our code skill, such as changing the contest system to the one used today, managing lesser-known September, and creating further iterations of the calendar. The term code monkey implies that things are always changing, always shifting, and always breaking such that a specialized nerd needs to crawl inside the code base and work tirelessly to fix things. That's not really the case here. This is a community I love, so keeping things alive is a task that we as a team will continue forward in performing. In a world without Brain for Breakfast or Java Code, it's really beautiful to know that the projects they spent so much of their time tinkering with live on far beyond them. You can feel Java Code's behind-the-scenes influence as you browse r/Polandball. The flair is all his handiwork, and much of the subreddit's unique design is all based on his architecture. And Brain for Breakfast's legacy lives on in a variety of ways as well, like the official Polandball World Map project. On that note, to me, one of the beautifully melancholic things about the official Polandball World Map series is getting a recap of each year's biggest headlines, no matter how funny or tragic they are, and having a sense of hope sprinkled among the despair. That's the beautiful thing about art in general, I think. We get to take all of our anxiety, rage, hope, excitement, despair, whatever we're feeling, and inject it into a drawing that inspires those same emotions in other people. And when we all look at the same world map, there's this tangible sense that we're not alone. That for better or worse, we're all in this together. I don't have a whole lot to say specifically about the 2021 map, other than the acknowledgement that post-2020, the situation situation for a lot of the countries depicted in the world map definitely looks bleaker than it has in previous years. You can see the January 6th incident over in America and Russia getting ready to invade Ukraine, for example. But what's really crazy for me is looking back through these old world maps, especially back to back, and seeing how the world takes a really wild turn from year to year as events unfold. In 2022, due to real-life personal responsibilities, Blackfire handed over much of the primary responsibility of managing that year's map to Andy. Here's Andy again with the story of how he got involved in bringing that 2022 world map to life. For a few good years before the 2022 map, Blackfire had been the one running the project, and it was the case with the 2022 map as well that he wished to run the project. However, midway through the production of that map, he stepped back from his mod duties in order to focus on his mental health and opted to give me the reins of that project. The world map is one of the biggest projects we have all year, so one would think that suddenly being foisted into the driver's seat would be a bit of a shock, but it actually wasn't, as this wasn't my first time directing such a map. While all of the official world maps that I had been involved with up to that point had been directed by Blackfire, there were also a number of unofficial maps made by other groups in the community that should be noted as part of this story. The first such map, which I was not actually involved with, was the Centennial Unofficial Polandball World Map 1918, organized by Polandball users to mark the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. While a lot of good work was put into that map, the unofficial status of it and the community making it ended up being problematic, as several contributors for that map turned out to not in fact be approved submitters, and their sections had to be hastily redrawn before the anniversary. After that, the leadership for PBU's project decided that the work for future maps would shift to PBC, where mods from the main sub could effectively look over any such work in order to prevent similar incidents. The next map from this group would be a map of the world in 1939 for the 70th anniversary of the start of World War II in Europe, and would be headed by a user of the name Stop Infidel. Unlike with the 1918 map, I was actually part of the team for the 1939 map, and just like with the 2022 map, I had to take up the reins on organizing the map after the project file got too large for Stop Infidel's computer. The 1939 map languished in development hell for months, but with the 2022 map, we didn't have the same luxury of time. By the time I was given the reins on the project, there were only 6 weeks until the new year. However, no man works alone on any project as large as this, and on this project, there were a few good people who put in the extra work alongside me to get it to the end. None deserve more credit than Wikipedia.org, who not only drew some great art around the canvas, but also kept on top of updating and adjusting people's allocations to ensure a clean final map to post to the subreddit. Wiki's help most assuredly ensured that the map went out in a great state and on schedule, and for that, I am forever grateful. Overall, however, the 2022 world map was not especially hard to organize compared to some of the other PB projects I have been a part of. The people who are a part of the map are some of the most preeminent artists in the community, and they know how to work effectively in such a project environment. The work on the map under my leadership may have been a bit slower than under Blackfire's less merciful approach, but it all got done in the end, and what you have in the end is a goddamn beautiful map. I do want to take some time to talk about some of the unofficial world map projects, like the more recent 1812 map and the 1863 map, as well as the 1918 map, the 1939 map, and countless others that the Reddit Polandball community has been furiously putting together over the years. There are a ton of these out there, and these kinds of projects are always a spectacular way to get involved in Polandball stuff and create something really cool with an international community of people who are all just a bunch of nerds who like history, politics, art, comics, all that stuff. It's really cool to think that this all started because some British guy thought it would be neat to draw every country in the world in 2014 and post it to the internet. I also want to plug the 2023 world map that was dutifully managed by r/Polandball's very own Bananas Are Violet, another moderator who is quite active on the Discord and Reddit side of things, and all around just a really nice guy who likes hanging out and talking Polandball and related topics with people. Here are Bananas' thoughts on managing the most recent installment, as well as the state of the project as a whole. I ended up in charge of this year's project as we were running into the late months of this year, and we hadn't heard much from the regular project organizer, so I volunteered to run the project with some help, although I was unable to get anyone to help me run it, so I went about it solo. It's been slightly draining to keep track of everyone's progress and remind people to not forget about the project, and it takes a lot of time, so becoming a host for such a project would definitely require either multiple people to run it or a lot of time on your hands. Luckily, this wasn't my first time in a project like this, as I've been a part of the world map projects before as a contributor and have been able to see how it is run. I've helped run smaller Polandball country maps for Polandball Art, and I ran the 1989 Polandball World Map project alone in the Polandball users Discord server, which gave me the necessary experience for running it this year. If anyone wants to run a project like this, they need to find at least a good number of people interested, they need a lot of time, and even though it might be annoying, one needs to frequently remind people of the project as to not avoid people forgetting and the project succumbing to inactivity. What this project means to me is one of the great strengths of Polandball to be able to come together as a community and create something so impressive every year without fail, carrying on a tradition that was started by one of the best and legendary members of this community, Brain for Breakfast, which I see as one way to honor his legacy. It's an impressive feat to get so many people organized together year after year to recap the past year in such a cool way, with every country getting their share of the spotlight. In regular Polandball comics, you usually have a few countries that tend to get represented very frequently, and a noteworthy block of countries that very rarely get featured in a comic. But in a project like this, every place gets to shine, and that's something that I find to be one of the major strengths of this type of project. Before I was invited to the project myself, I had waited with excitement every year to see what the community managed to put together. And I think the fact of the project being one of the most anticipated events each year alongside the calendar is truly something special. I'd like to express a special thanks to Blackfire for having run the project for so many years and keeping the flame alive. Here are some parting words from Blackfire about the world map. I love the world map because it is the world map, and the world map is definitionally deserving of love the same way water is definitionally wet. My absolute favorite feeling in regards to it is combing through the comments on the main posts or when posted elsewhere and seeing the, wow, they got my country, province, region, and wow, they know their stuff. Can't believe they knew about that. It's at the same time an intensely singular labor of love, a massive group effort, an unwieldy assault on the senses, and a moment of feeling seen and understood in a very large, hectic world. It really does mean a lot to me because no matter what, I can look back and say, we did this. It's also, despite its leviathanic nature, a very good introductory style of Polandball to show people unfamiliar, because it leans much closer into the geopolitical cartoon elements of the genre, the more slapstick, absurdist, or emotive long-form comics. Anyone can look at it and understand satirical map of current events, which explains their remarkable success penetrating into the normally milquetoast and dullardly domain of the popular subreddits. And finally, here's Andy Redditor's thoughts on the world map of today. In the eyes of many, the world map is and has been the Polandball project. In bringing together some of the greatest artists in the community each year, it has consistently produced incredible works of collaborative effort which stand alone in terms of effort in our modern online environment. Even when the first such map was made in 2016, it was enamoring to see the amount of time and work some of my favorite artists put into the map, and it only got better in subsequent years. The effort put into the official maps drew me into other collaborative projects in the community, such as subreddit events, the calendar, and the 1939 world map, which eventually got me on the map for the shortlist to work on the official world map, where I could draw about the ever-changing world to all the detail my heart desired, just like the artists of old. A comparison between the two biggest projects in PB may be warranted, between the world map and the calendar, as I have drawn for and organized both of the years. While the calendar may be a bigger project overall, I would say it's a lot messier of a project. There's a lot of moving parts with dozens of artists working disjointedly on 365/6 individual panels without any central coordination beyond just that which ensures that the panels are valid and get done. In comparison, the world map necessitates stronger cooperation, in that all the pieces of the veritable jigsaw puzzle need to fit together exactly. No piece can overflow its bounds, none can differ too greatly from the mold in which it has been cast. However, it is the limitation inherent to the medium that makes it work so well, in my opinion. With only so much room to work, you have to cram your piece dense with details, such that even the allocation with the least amount of detail put in will still look very solid. It is truly greater than the sum of its parts. Any one artist could make an opus, and such pieces are often posted to the subreddit, to be sure, but it is truly monumental for every inch of a project as large as this to be worthy of praise. There is truly nothing like it. I've been at so many places and have held so many roles within this community, from humble comic creator to event lead to project organizer and moderator, and have worked on an equally myriad number of collaborative works in that time. But throughout it all, the world map has been a constant paragon of what can be accomplished when the might of a small corner of the internet comes together as one. No amount of words can truly express what it is and what it means, but I hope my words help paint a picture. There are only a few things guaranteed in this life: death, taxes, and a mad dash to complete the annual Polandball World Map project before the end of the year. As long as r/Polandball exists in this world, we will probably keep putting out yearly world maps to help you cope with the absolute insanity that this world throws at us. It's certainly cathartic to see the artistic efforts that go into making these maps possible in the first place, and it's always a pleasure to see that the spirit of Brain for Breakfast and Java code lives on as long as people are around to make the Polandball World Map happen. Check out r/Polandball to see the 2023 World Map when it's finally finished. Actually, if I'm being honest, it's already finished. You should go look at that right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and please stay tuned for more animations, more podcast episodes, and more random videos about Polandball comics, because we've got a lot of fun stuff in the works. Bye, y'all.